as I'm in the in dormitory, so I went home and visited my family and had fun time with them, and I really enjoyed it. And now I'm full of energy to start another week because our weeks start from Saturday and then it ends on Thursday, and Fridays are our off days.
We only have one day off. That's Friday.
Oh.
Only Friday?
Yes.
Wow.
We are working harder for the development of our country, so we need to have lesser time for entertainment, those things.
I'm just curious, when you went home to see your family, what do you do?
Yeah.
Last week I didn't go home because I had a lot of assignments, so she may have her experience and
Yeah.
we can talk.
Okay. How can I say that? Like, seeing my mother, my brothers, and my sister, my grandmother. That's a good. I think. And I played guitar, kind of practiced it, and yeah, that's it. That was one day, only one day.
Good.
Yeah.
That's it.
Phoebe, go next. The rest of you.
Yeah. What about the rest of you?
Hi everyone.
Hi.
My week, it was good actually. I also had so much assignments. I completed some of my assignments and then I went out with my fiance and for a picnic. We went to a garden here we have in Afghanistan. Yeah, and then we spent some hours there and then I came back here.
You guys are so funny.
So, yeah.
So when you go on your picnics, what kind of food do you take?
Actually, I wanted to cook something by myself, but I didn't have enough time because of my assignments. So we bought something from a restaurant, and then yeah.
We mostly have kebab.
Yeah.
And
Kebab.
then there's a traditional food, we call it kobli.
Probably.
That's
Rice,
kobli.
kind of rice.
And then
Yeah.
That's rice, yeah. And very delicious. Kebab, it's like beef barbecue. Yeah, the barbecue one.
Yeah.
Was it good weather? What's the weather like?
Yeah,
lovely.
it was rainy.
It's so
Actually,
beautiful these days.
Yeah, actually these days it's rainy all the day.
Oh.
I can send you a photo of two of us in our campus. We just took it today.
Yeah, that would be great.
oh,
Please send it to us.
Yeah. I don't know.
Email it.
Okay. I'll send it to Skype here.
Okay. How about the rest of you?
I don't know how my week was actually. I mean, it was good. I was busy. I mean, there are elections going on inside the campus about the Student Government Association (SGA). If you guys may have it too. I mean, I'm running for secretary and Marta is running for vice presidency. So we are just busy with campaigning. Yeah, campaigning. You know, impressing people with big things. Just to vote for. Just to vote for us.
I want to hear I want to hear your speech that you give to the students. Give it to us.
We'll have it on Tuesday.
It's on Tuesday. We will have a speech.
It's on Tuesday, and I have 3 minute speech. She has 4 minutes. Since my speech is about, for secretary position, I would be talking about just being punctual, being organized, being on time to the meetings. But beside that, I would be also focusing on how to be just more than a secretary. They call it a very small position. But I want to also work as a volunteer, as a student, and as a responsible human rather than just sending emails, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what my speech would be about. And but I haven't written it down yet. I haven't planned it out. I haven't schedulized it yet, but I'm working on it. Yeah, but these are the things that I have in my mind.
Will you share
Actually,
this next week?
Yeah.
It's on a Tuesday.
Will you share the speech with us next week?
this week.
This week. It's on Tuesday, 3:30 p.m. I
No,
mean, we can even
no,
record it and send it to you guys
repeat
if you
it.
have.
Repeat it. Repeat your speeches for us next week when we see you. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
It will be exciting.
We'll vote for you, just so you know.
Yeah.
You already
Thank you.
got our vote, but we want to hear your
Would be
speech.
just waiting and all. Yeah. So it would be nice.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Who is doing something else as well, which is very valuable. She's in contact with an orphanage, and then she's telling those orphans to write letters to their mentors,
Yeah.
right? And then the mentors are going to reply to their letters by some inspiring words, trying to give them hope for the future, and give them inspire them to follow their dreams. And I'm one of those mentors,
Yeah.
responding to the letter of an orphan, and
Yeah.
it's so fun and really something valuable.
So if you know about the pimples,
Yeah.
you guys have pimples,
Yeah.
writing pimples and letters to each other. That's how this thing is about. I have been a volunteer like since a year now, so I have no income. But yes, I'm doing more than that, more than getting money and all. And I have been in contact with an orphanage, and I'm exchanging letters. I'm the one who would be just bringing letters and just taking them to back the letters. 60 students, 60 orphans, and yeah, for this semester, this is the plan. And beside that, you might be also making library for them,
Wow.
and as well as a few other things. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have so much things in our mind. We just need fund and sponsors toward. I mean, we need people to help us inside the campus. So yeah, we were just waiting for that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Is the orphanage thing like a community service type of event?
Yes.
Or, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the vice president of AUF Community Service Club inside my campus.
Oh.
Yeah.
What other organizations or places do you guys work with?
I also work with Cobble Hub. I mean, Global Shapers. But then in here we call it Cobble Hub. It's also a volunteer thing. We are just giving them project, and then they're choosing us a person who will help us with the funds. And that's outside the campus. And inside the campus, we're planning to bring the Rotary Club. If you guys have it too in your own country, by the name of Rotary. Yeah, it's an international club.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're trying to bring that in as well. And our main goal is, my main goal is to help kids, especially street kids, because we have this very high level of child labor in our country. So yeah, so that's my own goal. But yes, there are so many other activities as well that we can do through those clubs, not only helping the kids. But yeah, my main focus is kids.
That's nice. Okay, Jeannie and Phoebe, how about your week? What was your about your week?
Something good about my week? Well,
It's taking a long time.
hello. Sorry.
Blue, you weren't feeling well this week.
Yeah, but I finished my accounting midterm, so that was good. It was just a big load off of my shoulders. Yeah, and the weather has been really nice, so it just puts me in a good mood. Yeah, overall.
What about you, Jeannie?
My week was like I had like midterms as well, but like yesterday there's like a Asian American type of like birthday party to celebrate like all the like Asian Americans. So like we had like food and like a party, so that was pretty fun.
Where
Yeah.
was it?
It was at the Grove House on Pitzer campus.
And how well was attended was it?
How long? It started at 6 and then like ended at 7:30, but then the party part started at like 10 p.m. and then like lasted till like 1 a.m. Yeah.
Were there a lot of people?
I didn't actually go to the party thing because I was out of something else, but like it was, I could hear the music from my dorm, so it sounded like super big.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I want to introduce, we're on level session 5, and there are still 3 other people that are supposed to be joining us. So whenever they hop on, I'll add them. I'm kind of standing by waiting for them to just respond back through WhatsApp. They contacted me earlier and said they were planning to be on. That includes, actually, Phoebe, do you have Kumba's contact, Skype? If
Yeah.
not, can you, Skype her in because she had wanted to join us too, and I haven't seen her pop up.
Okay.
Okay. On session 5, a lot of what you just introduced yourselves around is covered and important in lesson 5, and that's how we maintain this balance between relationships and community partners, students, administrators, and faculty. So for the 2 of you in particular who are running for office, and then what you also just shared about whether it's Jeannie mentioned a club or an organization having an event, or on campus being and off campus being involved with other organizations. That's a way that you are showing up for leadership associated with lesson 5. As we've gotten, we get to know each other some more. And as you work with people in your school and in your community and get to know them better, then your leadership influence also increases, and it also conveys to them this sense of hope, um, on how people can come together and work to solve a problem. And so what we've done this morning is invite Tatiana El Khoury to join us. Tatiana's been working with Girls Fly now this is going in 2015 was our first connection, so about 4 years. It feels like it's been more like 8 to 10, but
It does.
it's 4 years. Tatiana, you may recognize her. She was the first artist and was the facilitator when we did our arts experience live in downtown Los Angeles. And she has a very important role in the upcoming conference. And so let me turn it over to Tatiana and let her also introduce herself by sharing something good that happened to you, Tatiana, this week.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to think. Something good that happened this week. I spoke to a high school about entrepreneurship, and it was middle school students, and we were talking about them building their businesses, and it was kind of interesting because they were young. I think they were 6th grade to 8th grade, about 11 to 13, and it was so much fun because they had such great questions, and I was surprised by the level of uh, intelligence in their questions about building businesses, and I answered them all, and they just kept on asking more questions, and at the end of it I was like, oh wow, I know my stuff. I know they were young kids asking me questions, but it felt kind of cool that I was able to answer all the questions that they were sending my way. So it was a nice little way to spend my week.
It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with everyone, Tatiana, what you do? Tell them about Road to Artem, and then explain how it's, lesson 5 references transactional, transformational,
Mm-hmm.
and transformative. So, and that was a big part of the graffiti arts experience, like how our belief in our dreams and our hopes for not only our own selves, but how those also can transform us inside personally, but have transformational impact in our communities, in our families, in our universities. And if you could tie that in with your story.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I started an organization called Road to Artdom, and we're going to be 5 years old this year. And it's an art nonprofit where the whole goal is to bring art into areas that don't have access to it. When I was growing up, I was always
Kumpa's here.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I never considered myself an artist. I was always very creative. I was always coming up with fun things to do, and I was always drawn to people who were artists, but I never considered myself an artist per se. And I, through high school, didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was going to college, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was talking to someone at my school, and they told me it sounded like I was an artist. And it blew me away that somebody would say that I sounded like an artist, which all I ever thought of art was something that was physical, something that you could do. And I couldn't imagine how I could sound like something that was a physical thing that people see. So I took a couple of art classes, and when I did, I wasn't great. I wasn't great at it at all starting off, but I felt so calm and I felt so excited to be doing it. And it just felt like I was very like anxious. I was very worried about stuff in high school. I was always very, concerned and stressed out. And when I did art, it was beautiful. It was magical. I just felt kind of calm. Um, I felt great about a lot of stuff. And it just amazed me that I could take a blank piece of paper that nothing was on it and then spend a little bit of time and create something that others would look at and share an experience with it. And that just felt like a spiritual experience to me, that I was able to dream up something that other people would experience, and other people would have their own idea about it or have other meaning that I may or may not have put into it. So it was a beautiful thing. And when I found that, I was about 18, and then I felt sad that it took me that long to find it. And it was upsetting that I didn't have that as a kid. And when I started taking classes in college, a lot of the people that were in my classes, they were so much better than I was. And when I asked them how long they've been doing it, they said they've been doing it since they were 5, since they were 7. They had art classes in school. Their parents put them in after school programs. And I got really jealous that I didn't have that opportunity. And I told myself at that point that I didn't want other kids to be robbed of that. So eventually, when I felt like I made it, I wanted to be able to give back and to get other kids and girls and people that look like me to create, because art is, to Gail's point, it's a very transformative piece. And there's a lot of people who create art that come from the same type of environment. There's a lot in the art world. There's a lot of famous white males that are artists, and there isn't as much diversity as there could be. And the more that we can get diverse people from different walks of life and different countries to create art, the more we'll get to see what's happening. So just even with you guys sharing your photos of your picnic, like, that's beautiful. That's something that is expressing what you're up to. And the more that people are creating photos and arts and showing their point of view or their part of the world, the more we get to learn and experience different things. So that's it's a bit about why I do what I do. And it's exciting to me when I can work with people who've never done art at all and get them to do something that looks beautiful. Like last week I was doing a painting class, and there was a little girl in there that was, I'd say she was about 6 or 7, and she didn't want to follow along. She didn't want to do what I was doing. And I said, that's fine. Paint whatever you want. You can do that. But she got frustrated a couple of times, and she wanted to start over. And I told her she couldn't. She had her canvas, and that was it. She was going to work on that. And after a while, she started learning how to fix what she thought was a mistake. And it was kind of cool, because it's not just about creating the artwork, because a lot of times it's very quickly, I can tell people's personalities. I can see the people who are being too judgmental on themselves. I could see the people who have trouble dealing with mistakes. I can see the people who are not allowing themselves to express themselves. And then we can have a conversation through the art. So a lot of times it's not even just about painting a pretty picture, but I can really quickly see how people interact and what they could do to, make themselves better. So it was really fun. By the end of it, the little girl had fun, and she said, yeah, I came in here and I thought this was going to be stupid. I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. The kids are like, I thought this was going to be stupid, but I walked away and it was fun. And I'm going to ask my mom if we can paint later. And it's really nice to see them feel good about it afterwards, or see that there's something fun, or that they're expressing themselves, and that they didn't just throw it away like they wanted to initially. Let me see, what else can I tell you guys?
Bring the global connection.
Yeah.
Your family's background and story. That was
Okay.
really important for them. It's too bad that, again, the Sierra Leone
I
girls are
know.
now, but it's okay. They'll see the video.
They'll see the video later. Yeah. So I always used to say I'm like a melting pot. I represent everything in the world, and I look pretty racially ambiguous. So I whenever I travel to any country, I don't think there's been a country where I haven't been there and people thought I was a local, because I kind of look like everyone that I go. But I'm a first generation citizen in the United States. The firstborn as well, the oldest of my family. Both my parents immigrated from other countries. And they did it when they were young too. My mother, I think, was about 17 or 18 when she came to America. She was born in Mexico, at the very, 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 very most southern tip of Mexico that borders Belize, another Caribbean country. And she grew up in Belize. So she is Mexican and Belizean. And my father is Lebanese. He's from Lebanon. And all of his family were all born in Sierra Leone, Africa. So everybody was born in Sierra Leone, and then they would go to boarding school in Lebanon. So when I was a baby, my father came to America to do college. When he was in Lebanon, there was a civil war that was happening, so he couldn't go to school in Lebanon at the time. So his first year, I think he was in Morocco and went to school in Casablanca. And after that, him and a couple of friends, they came to California, and they went to Glendale College and did their community college at first. And then he transferred to Cal State LA and went to college there. And the intent was that he was coming to America just to go to college and then was going to move back. So once my parents got together and got married and had me, we moved to Sierra Leone. So I lived in Sierra Leone only for about a year. We were there and we left because there was civil war as well that happened. So once the civil war was starting to happen, we left a little shortly after and came back to America. My family stayed a little bit longer than I did until the Civil War got really bad and they got pushed out of the country. So then the family that was living in Sierra Leone, they all moved, and some of them went back to Lebanon, some of them are in Nigeria, and some went to Liberia. So yeah, I have family all over. So my first passport was at 3 months old, and I had at 3 months old I had been to America and Mexico and Africa, and most of my travels as a kid was going to other countries because that's where my family was. I only had a very small close-knit family that lives in America, just a couple of cousins. So if I wanted to see it, it was weird because in LA, I felt like I didn't have a very big family because I only had a couple of people. But then when I would go to Lebanon or go to Mexico or go to Belize, it was so many people that knew me that even walking down the street in Belize, if I wasn't with my mother, I'd walk down the street and people would stop me and say, "Hey, you're Carmen's daughter." And I'm like, "What? This is a small town, and how do you recognize me?" But it's kind of cool when I would go to other countries and they would recognize me like that. And the same thing when I'd go to Lebanon, my family's in a small town out there. everyone would see us and say, "Oh yeah, you're Riyadh's daughter." I'm like, "Oh wow, how do you can tell?" It's so crazy, but really nice to feel connected there.
How do you think your background and experiences work with the Girls Fly Value right now?
I love it. I mean, I got so excited when I mean, I absolutely live for travel. That's part of why, like, my nonprofit's name is Road to Artdom, and it's all about travel and journey and experiencing new stuff. So once I saw that we were getting to talk to girls from all over the world, it was very exciting. And even some of the countries, like having Sierra Leone be a part of it, that's really cool because I was there. Afghanistan, I think that's awesome. There's all sorts of places that I've never experienced or traveled that I'm like, ooh, okay, when do I get to go visit them in person? That's the next thing I'd be excited about. But it's really cool to be able to talk to everyone and see what you're up to. And what's always amazing to me once you start traveling is there's certain things that you'll notice. Someone else on the other side of the world is having the same problems as you, and it connects you. Sometimes you can feel alone in your own situation, and then when you see other people are dealing with the same thing from another part that speaks another language or eats a different food, and we're all going through the same type of stuff, it's kind of cool to make you feel more connected.
So you said you visited Afghanistan as well?
I visited what?
Afghanistan?
No, I haven't. I want to.
Oh.
I did have an invitation to go to Afghanistan once, and I wanted to go. I do for my artwork, I paint, and I have done artwork for the Air Force. So the Air Force will invite me to different missions, and I go to different bases. And I did a couple in America, and then there was an opportunity to go to Afghanistan to go to one of the military bases, and I was like, yes, I'm going. And all my family told me no, and I was like, I don't think it's going to be dangerous. I mean, I know I would have been on the military base with the Air Force, but I didn't go. I wanted to. They were like, no. It was the tricky part about it. Not that it's just that when for the Air Force, what they tell for the international program, because we're going to the military base, I had to be okay because they don't tell you what's actually happening or, anything like that. I would have had to been okay to go out there and stay for a month, because if something were to have happened, if anything happened, then they would sequester me. They would put me to the side, and it could be up to a month. And at the time I was like, I want to go. I think I'll be safe, but I don't know if I can potentially be gone for a month in case something happens. So I didn't get to go. So I would love to.
So I hope you come and visit here once you get the chance.
Yeah, I would love that.
Military or for
come to our university.
To this country like an ordinary foreigner, not with military or something.
Yeah,
that will be fun.
I think it'll be way better without the military.
Hi. And then we definitely invite you in our university.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that would be nice.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Kuba. How are you?
Fine.
Good. Tatiana, let me interrupt just for a moment so Kumba could introduce herself.
Yes. Sure. My name is Kumba. I am an exchange student at Cedar College. I come from France. I study political science there. And I will go back in May. So I'm really happy to meet you, all of us guys.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I am part of the international festival. So I need to leave you, but
we'll see you later.
Yes, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good time.
Tatiana, I have another question.
Yes.
You were talking about how it's encouraging to know that people of other parts of the world are actually experiencing similar situations. What are some examples of that Girls Fly has enabled you to experience?
Let's see. One of my a favorite moment that I've had, a conversation I had once. We did a mural at a community in Avocado Heights in Los Angeles, and it was a really fun. It was really fun. We had a painter, another painter, LeJohn. He did the outline of a little girl riding on a horse in a very traditional Mexican dress, and it was a lot of fun. And we were asking all the girls to take their thumb and just dip it into paint and to put their thumbprint on it. And at first people were very shy, and then after a while, I mean, the paint was all over them. I felt bad. They were going home with paint all over themselves and their clothes, but they had so much fun. And then a couple weeks later, we actually went to a local elementary school to unveil the painting, and it was hanging up in their cafeteria.
Tell me how
And
large it was, Tatiana.
you said what?
Tell me how large it was, because it was huge.
Oh yeah, it was very, very, very large. I mean, it's, super high. I mean, it was I think like 8 feet, maybe like 8 feet long, and maybe like 3 feet wide. So very, very large, and a very, very big. And their cafeteria has very high walls, and it was up very high. And what was really cool was, it looked very impressive. When we did the painting in the parks, it was all girls. But when we went to the elementary school, it was all of the little girls and all the little boys. And there was a couple of the little girls recognized me and came up to me and like, hey, do you remember me? And I was like, yeah, of course I remember you. And then there was one girl who came up to, well, I walked by and we were doing art with the girls and the boys. And one of the boys came up to me and they're like, teacher, I have a question for you. And I was like, yes. They're like, do you know this girl right here? And they were pointing to one of the girls. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, really? You know her? And I was like, yeah, I know her. And then I could see it, because at first she was looking really like shy and upset because he was calling me over there. And then once I said, yeah, I know her, I've met her, she was just like, yeah, see, I told you I know her. And then he's like, she's telling us that she painted that up there. Is that true? Like, she didn't paint that, did she? And I was like, yeah, she did. And they were like, what? She painted that? I'm like, yeah. And then she, like, I could see her whole body change. And she was like, yeah, see, I told you I painted that. And I was like, yeah, she did a great job. And they were looking at her like, what? And it was just such a neat kind of thing to see, because she was excited when she saw me and excited to see it up there. But really quickly, she started to doubt herself when the little boy was, questioning her and thinking there's no way she painted this. And I've shared that before at different Girls Fly events. And I just think it was such a great moment that, sometimes when you're in really transformational leadership type experiences, you feel great and you feel empowered. But then when you get back into your regular situation, it can be really easy to doubt yourself or feel like, oh, I mean, am I really as good as I thought? Or did I really experience something cool and new? And it was kind of neat to see that. I don't want to see anybody feel bad about themselves, but it was interesting to see her go from feeling like she was doubting herself, knowing that she painted it. But then when I was there to validate and say, yes, I know her, she's great, and she had a part of it, and see her completely light it up and say, yeah, I did that. And knowing that that painting is going to be in her cafeteria constantly as a reminder every day, it was a really cool moment. And I'm sure that you guys can all think of a moment that you had something similar to, or there's somebody else that doubted or said, oh, no, you didn't do that, or, and it's great that you have this opportunity to talk with one another, or to get excited about what fun things you did this week and celebrate. Sometimes we forget,
Right.
and then we get down on ourselves.
So I was like kind of wondering, you kind of like touched based on like your like leadership experience working with kids. Like, do you ever have like set, I guess, like hopes or fears going into those leaderships? So like, I guess since like you talked a little bit about that, we can all share, but we can start with you.
Yeah. Have I ever been nervous about going into leadership?
Or like, yeah, like what types of like expectations or like, do you have like set like goals for you or hopes that you will achieve and like what types of like fears that you like are surrounding going into like leadership roles
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah, well, I'll say I feel like I'm a natural born leader. A lot like you, a lot like you ladies. I was in student government, from when I was in elementary school and in high school. I ran for student government. I didn't get. There was a couple of them I didn't get, but I still went ahead and then I was like, okay, I didn't get my class one. I'm gonna go run for my clubs. I always just like to be in charge, I think, because I naturally, even if I'm not in charge, when I get into group settings, a lot of times, because I think sometimes people, I don't know if they're shy or if they're just sitting back and waiting for something to happen as opposed to taking part and making things happen. I usually come into situations and I'm like, okay, what are we doing? What needs to be done? I need to do my part. And if you do that enough, then people are like, oh, she's a leader, so we're gonna make her a leader. That kind of has happened to me a lot. So now that I'm purposely going in and leading, classes, I still get nervous. I still get shy when I sometimes get into it, even though I'm like, I naturally end up being a leader in different situations. I still get a little nervous of like, are they going to listen? Are they going to like me? Is it going to work? Do they want to be here? Because a lot of times people, I mean, especially when you're working with kids, they'll let you know. They'll say, this is boring. I don't want to be here. and sit there and say that. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And I usually will, I kind of give them slight tough love. And I'm like, yeah, I think it's boring too. Sit there. If you want, I'll talk to you. and they're like, what? Wait, what? No, I said I want to do something. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I mean, so I'll kind of reverse psychology on them and say, well, you know what? If you don't want to be here, I get it, but this person does, so I'm gonna give them attention. And they're like, oh, no, I can do something too. And then it changes because I don't like to give all of the attention, especially when you've got groups of people who there are people who want to. So I'll usually go that way, and then when things are with the art, once it's going, then I'll come back to those ones and to have a conversation, because sometimes they're just looking for some attention or they just don't know or they're putting a barrier. So once I've got everybody else going, then I'll come back to them and say, okay, let's talk about this. What's going on? And a lot of times it's, they've got something else happening or they're just need some attention or need some one-on-one. They don't know how to ask it. So I have to kind of figure out where their place is. And then sometimes they're just trouble. Sometimes they just don't want to. And I can deal with it from there and say, okay, well, there's a lot of people who do want to be here right now. And, maybe you give them their seat and go. And then it might seem harsh, but it works because sometimes you can't get everybody on the same page. And if you've given them opportunities, you have to be able to let them go so the people that are there can show up and rise up to be leaders.
Right. I think that's very valuable in like recognizing like who wants to be there and like giving them a shot to shine and things like that. Um, did you girls want to like add on to like what if you're like in leadership roles, like your hopes and fears and like surrounding that?
Like in your leadership experiences, if you have some fears, being nervous, what are those things?
I think it's normal in a leadership position, everyone feels like nervous or not very so much comfortable. It's because they're not 100% sure if people will listen to them, as you mentioned, or um, they are not sure if they're working on the work it is every people will like it or not. For example, when I was in student council in my school, I was the vice president of student council. So at that time, whenever we wanted to decide on a program which we wanted to organize in our school, um, so we had this anxious or nervous whether we will do good and every person will like our idea or our program or not. So before organizing things or before holding the programs, we had this anxious or nervousness. And after that, when we finish the program and we see the result that it was very good, and after that we feel very good and happy that we could finally did it successfully.
Phoebe, Fakili has joined us from Botswana, so I'd like to introduce her. Please, Fakili. I'm hoping she can hear me. We could see her. Fakili?
I think she's on mute.
Yeah. Okay, I just asked her to. Okay, well, when she unmute, there she is.
Yeah, now she just needs to unmute.
Yeah, unmute yourself. Yeah.
If you click on the microphone looking thing. Oh.
Okay, I'll send her a message through WhatsApp.
Okay.
We can't hear you. Okay. Yeah, waiting for her to. Okay, when she unmutes, then we'll have her introduce herself. Tatiana, what I think would be really helpful is the sharing how arts can be incorporated in their girls' fly experiences with the communities or the girls that they decide to work with in the future.
Mm-hmm.
What are some approaches they can take with that?
So some small things that you can do are art's a really great icebreaker. It's a really great way to get people to kind of lower their inhibition, especially even if they hate it and they're not good at it. What's kind of cool is you get people to break down their walls, even if they're like, I'll hear people say this all the time. Oh, I'm not an artist. I can't even draw a stick figure. And I'm like, I bet you can. Let's at least draw stick figures, and I'll get them to do that. And after a while, people then are kind of pushing through and are getting uncomfortable. And then once you kind of get them into that place where they got a little uncomfortable and they do something a little different, then you can transition into having the conversations that you wanted to have, because now you've got them to kind of let down a couple of walls. And you can do even simple like icebreaker type things. When we were at the arts experience in downtown LA, we had very small paper cards and had everybody pick a word that represented themselves or something that they wanted to be reminded of every day. And everyone drew their word and decorated the background, and it was very simple. Doesn't take a lot of artistic ability, and some of them were very creative and some of them were very simple. But what happens is that a lot of people just don't get that opportunity to do it. So you get people saying, wow, the last time I colored like this, I was a little girl. And then they start getting excited by that. And as they're doing it, they start to have conversations with one another, and it starts to get people kind of connecting. Or someone will see something and be like, oh, I'm not that great. But then they'll see me like coloring in letters and they're like, oh, I could do that. And then everyone starts to kind of interact. And what you can do is, notice those things. You don't even have to be an artist, but you can say to someone, if you see someone doing something really cool, be like, you could tap someone else who looks like they're struggling and say, oh, wow, did you see what she's doing? That's really cool how she outlined that. Maybe you can try that. And then you can even do that around it and kind of connect people, because then it does a couple of things. The person who was doing something really nice, you've given them a compliment and you make them feel good about what they did. And then you put them in a position to potentially teach somebody, that's at the table something. So you're kind of elevating them to be a leader. And then for the person who's feeling alone or struggling in the exercise, now they've connected with somebody else that's sitting there, and you're starting to form that bit of community. So even something simple as that can start to get people to get out of their comfort zone and connect them.
Hey, Jeannie, welcome back. Fakila,
Hi, sorry, computer.
if you can you hear me? Can you shake your head up and down? Can you hear me? I can't tell if she can hear us or not.
I can. I don't know if you can hear me.
I think she still has it on mute.
Yeah, she does.
Let me introduce her to you. Last semester, so starting I think in October, we connected the first group internationally that Girls Fly in Pittsburgh connected with to start going through these training modules with Botswana and Zimbabwe. And we were very intentional about that. One, because the common denominator between you at your university, the university that Fakili attends, is Pittsburgh College. And so we had an intern from last school year, serving in the same capacity as Phoebe and Jeannie are right now. We had interns serving from last year that are now in Botswana and have met with Fakili, met with Shishka, and she's also in South Africa setting up a Girls Fly program. So Fakili is a leader in her community. She's been doing some amazing things with women at her university and is looking, to put a date together and a place so that they have access to the internet to do a Girls Fly digital training with her group of girls before they launch a conference. So we would like all of you to have a presence during our conference on May the 3rd. And for Afghanistan specifically, we would really like, if we know it's a Friday, and so for you guys on Friday around the same time as this call to the conversation today, but on Friday, if you're available to Skype in, we'd like to have you see the audience of about 300 people and to speak to them about introduce yourself, tell them what university you go to, and then pick one of the training module topics that has made the best, strongest impression upon you, and then share that with the audience. We'll give you about 10 minutes to do that, maybe a little bit less. The students are only there on campus half day, and because there's so many of them, we're trying to also get through quite a bit of program information. So let us know if you can do that. And worst case, which is not a bad case, you can do a video of yourself, introducing yourself, telling them what position you won in the student body election that you're now the leader of. Let them know that you'll be running for president of the country in a few years. You're going to be building a library. Yep, I knew it. And just so that they get a sense of the value of their voice in a global context, because you're showing up to also introduce yourself to them from another part of the world. Does that make sense? Am I being clear?
Yes.
Okay. You also asked last week for the emails for the Sierra Leone girls. I'm waiting. They just sent it over to me today, so I'll send that to you. They were very, very impressed. All of us were with the guest speaker last week. She was amazing. And so I'll be circling back to you about her specifically and some other people that we'd like to get all of you, including her, in front of. What I just put in the Skype link right here is the Skype chat. I just put in, that's a video from a conversation with Kyrgyzstan a week ago. We'll be uploading, we now have them appearing in a private place on the website, but it's accessible by a link and the password. So the password is Girls Fly. Okay, so you'll be able to watch a similar discussion and training sessions from the previous weeks, many of which you're included in, and upcoming weeks. These have not been edited this time around, but in the future we do plan to edit them because some parts of them you have to just skip forward because of sound, just some sound distractions. But take a look at those. You'll be able to learn and hear from the others on the other Skype training sessions. Phoebe, Jeannie, it's 10:30. Any other questions for the young ladies at AUAF or for Tatiana or I?
No, but I'm thankful to be on this call. So like even though like my computer shut off a little bit at the last minute, like I'm like glad that I got to listen to you, Tatiana, and about your work and stuff like that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tatiana, for sharing your experiences and your background on how it has impacted you and how it has led you to what you're doing today. I think it's really encouraging to know that you don't have to be good at art to like enjoy art and the perks of art. And maybe I'll go on to do art. I don't know. Yeah,
You only
but
get better. You only get better if you practice.
yeah, because I think I just got really discouraged because I wasn't good at it. But now it's like a new perspective on how to treat art and how to use art in a way that builds me up. So that's great. And thank you, girls from Afghanistan, for sharing how you guys are moving forward and how you guys are building up the girls there in your country. I think you guys have so many obstacles, but at the same time, you're so positive about your situations and you're still working hard on it and not giving up. I think it's really, for you guys, you have to work hard every day to get it. But for us, it's like we're honestly very privileged compared to you guys. And I'm really thankful that you guys get to share this experience with us.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You know what I'm going to do this weekend, and as soon as I'm finished with this conversation, I'm texting Found. We're going to go on a picnic. I'm really glad that you shared that. I think taking leadership shows up in different ways. It's not always in the big picture formal ways, but just what can we do to lead within our immediate relationships and those that are around us to bring this element of joy. And there is a reason that art is a part of Girls Fly. It's because of, like in this lesson plan, it is symbolic and a hands-on way of conveying a message associated with one, leadership, like Tatiana shared, and then transformation, inside and out. And it gives us fresh perspectives, like Phoebe was just highlighting. So you'll see, if you can join us by Skype Live, you'll get a glimpse into how we implement this in our Girls Fly conference. Phoebe and Jeannie specifically, Tatiana and I are on Tatiana, can I say we're on the final stretch of finishing up? Okay.
Yeah, we are. We are.
A book, a workbook specifically for the conference that includes incorporates these lessons that we've learned from the ladies in Afghanistan and other parts of the world and ours into the conference that day with those 300 girls. So I want to be there with Tatiana when she goes to Afghanistan, and I'd really like to be there with all of you guys to plan a Girls Fly conference at your university. So we'll have that conversation as well coming up, okay?
Amazing.
All right, you guys. Have a good weekend. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Well,
Have a good
happy-
time. Thank you, Tatiana. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
your
ladies.
story. It was very nice.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.